If you're anything like me, I'm so sorry. If you're anything like me, you're constantly on the lookout for new and interesting media. Something with unique twists and turns that ultimately result in a sophisticated yet satisfying conclusion. Something that will change you as a person, even ever so slightly. Nah, I'm just kidding. If you're anything like me, you're looking for a series that gets your blood pumping everywhere in your body except for your brain. No, you want to make sure that soft pink thinking machine forgets all about the fact that Deborah from accounting keeps trying to get you fired. All because you unconsciously frowned one time when she told you for the third pay period in a row that your check's going to be late again because of a clerical error. Tonight, the only thing you want on your mind is the brainless beatdown that only OP isekais and Boruto can give you. Unfortunately, I've got some bad news, because the series I want to talk about is not brain rot on a stick. That's right, I'm doing the cruelest thing I can possibly imagine. I'm giving you one of the best recommendations right off the bat. Today, we're going to talk about My Life as a Loser. For the record, I know what you're thinking, you little shit, but that's the title of the manhwa. My Life as a Loser is a series about a man with a dead-end job in his mid-20s and no prospects at all. A man with a tragic past that caused him to lose everything he's ever cherished. After a chance encounter with the one responsible for making his life a living hell, as well as seeing all the former bullies of his school being far more successful than he, Ji-Noo Kim, our protagonist, runs away and accidentally leaps to his death. Or does he? Oh. No, yeah, he does. As Ji-Noo plummets to his death, he curses his bully An-jul and declares he will make An-jul suffer the same fate as himself. He then wakes up back in high school with a new opportunity to change how things turned. Wait a minute, I think the wrong guy regressed. That's right, instead of a typical revenge story where a hero goes back in time and gains a second chance, it's actually the bully who gets sent back in his body. It turns out that the curse Ji-Noo placed actually worked, and now An-jul is given a task. He must reverse the 4 incidents that occurred in Ji-Noo's life that caused him to go down his failing road, or he won't be able to return to his body. These events, colorfully referred to as the Fuck My Life incidents, or FML incidents, were either directly caused or indirectly caused by our surprised main character An-jul, and he must solve them while enduring the same abuse he doled out to the original MC, Ji-Noo, with the added caveat of having to convince his younger self to clean up his act. This is not a brain-dead revenge story. This is a story about growth and redemption. An-jul is very much antithetical to your typical main character at the start. Despite initially appearing sympathetic, he genuinely thinks he didn't do anything wrong and assumes the task of correcting Ji-Noo's path will be easy for someone like himself. He's brash, boorish, and an all-around muscle-headed idiot, and he thinks he can beat his way out of the problem. However, as he deals with the limits of his weaker body and his new loser image, he slowly comes to terms with the difficulty Ji-Noo faced and the role he played in his suffering. Ji-Noo, despite not being the regressor, still exists as an advisor and judge of An-jul in his mind. He oversees the whole process and learns a thing or two about his own shortcomings as he watches An-jul's attempts to overcome his traumas. It's a really interesting dichotomy as you struggle to decide if you wish to root for An-jul, despite his role in the initial events and his lack of remorse, at least in the beginning, or if you should hope for comeuppance at the cost of his growth and Ji-Noo's salvation. Even if you're someone who thinks he doesn't deserve redemption, because he's in Ji-Noo's body, his punishment is bittersweet. On the other hand, when he comes out on top over the bullies, it's satisfying to see them get their just desserts. It's an ingenious play on the regression formula designed to really twist you up on the inside like a pretzel. Now, if you've read any Korean manhwa before, there's a chance you might have seen this author's other work, such as Lookism, which has an anime, and Viral Hit, which I believe is getting one. He's got his own little extended universe between his comics, and you'll usually see cameos from one series appearing in the others. The reason I mention this is that the author is clearly a fan of martial arts, and usually has very well done fight scenes, and this series is no exception. Now, the fights are not as pronounced, as this series is more focused on the dynamic between the two leads, but there's still plenty of action to be found if you're looking for it. Now, I also want to say this is one of the funniest series I've read in a while, and that's not a compliment I give lightly. Despite the very serious subject matter of the comic, it still manages to display some very appropriately timed jokes. In fact, I'd go so far as to say this series is 25% dramatic masterpiece, 25% heartwarming tearjerker, and 50% comedy gold. Sometimes it might seem like a joke is about to overstay its welcome, only for it to immediately shift into a very serious and humanizing moment for one of the characters. It's actually kind of amazing how they managed to do this. The absolute best part about this comic is not only is it finished, it's short and sweet, and it's got a proper English translation that's available on webtoon.com. And the English translation is pretty good too. I have a minor grievance in some places where you'll see a sentence that says something like, "I'm gonna win him," and they clearly meant to say, "I'm gonna beat him," and that happens a lot, but it's very small, minor annoyance. Doesn't keep me up at night. Either way, like I said, the entire series is available on Webtoon, and I would highly recommend you check it out. I was skeptical at first when I started, but after the first 3 chapters, I binged the entire thing in 2 days. And also, if you don't want to use the Fast Pass, you can find the translation somewhere else if you catch my drift. Wink, wink, hint, hint, arg! This charmingly frustrating story is an emotional roller coaster with laughs and tears, and it stops at just the right moment, with a bit of a cheesy but frankly beautiful and satisfying conclusion. Or you can go back to reading That Time I Was Reincarnated as an Orc's Penis. Yeah, that's what I thought.